Welcome, everybody. This is the Teaching with Primary Sources and Teaching Online webinar series brought to you by the TPS Western Region at MSU Denver in partnership with the TPS Teachers Network. My name is Kyle Kleba, and I am the project coordinator for the TPS Western Region, and I'll be your host for tonight. Keith Patterson and Crystal Payne will be helping in the chat, as well as Michelle Pearson and Laura Israelson, who have the two geeky teachers have always been helpful in this whole webinar series. For those of you who would like the professional development certificate for your participation, we'll provide that link at the end to fill out for just a really short, brief reflection and where we can send the certificates for you. Our program tonight is entitled Pairing Literature with Primary Sources for Remote Learning. It'll be presented by Ruth Ferris, K-6 librarian, Kathi Hoyt, an education media specialist, and Melissa Fox, a second grade teacher. And with that, I'll hand it over to y'all.
Hello. I'm going to, excuse me, I apologize. I'm going to unmute.
Oops. That's okay. It looks like
I'm sorry. They were doing really good when we did the run through, and I have a very vocal pup. So today we're going to do pairing literature with primary sources for remote learning. Melissa Fox, second grade teacher at Washington School, is going to introduce us to SeeSaw. I'm going to do connecting primary sources and children's literature. And Kathi is going to talk about the Library of Congress app and Reflector and looking at student discovery sets. Pairing literature with primary sources for remote learning objectives for this webinar. Introduce the SeeSaw application and show how it can be used effectively in the classroom, not only for younger students, but for older students as well. Provide a case study in how exemplary literature can be paired with primary sources and used in the classroom during this remote learning time. Explore the use of Library of Congress discovery sets to support literacy in the remote and in-person classroom. Review the Reflector and Library of Congress collections app. And I'm going to turn this over to Melissa, and she's going to talk about SeeSaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. So I appreciate this opportunity. Just please know that I am not an expert on SeeSaw by any means. I have used it for the last several years in the classroom as an assessment tool for a quick shot of where my kids are at. And now that we're doing this distance learning, I'm using it every day. So I want to share with you what SeeSaw is. So SeeSaw is a student digital portfolio and parent communication platform. The portfolio follows the students from grade to grade if the teacher is continuing to use it. You can also invite other teachers to be on your class, such as specialists or interventionists, and they can create their own folders so that it's more organized. Basically, you use it as a learning platform that houses all of the students' work. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to sign up for SeeSaw. I'm just going to go into Google. Oh wait, do I have to share, don't I? Okay, just a moment. Let me share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see this. And I am going into, just type in SeeSaw. And you will see that this is the website for SeeSaw. So if I want to sign up, I just click here, and it is a free device to use, or a free platform. There is a paid subscription if you want to upgrade for different features, but you don't have to. So once you click on that, you will see this, and this is also an avenue that the students can log into their SeeSaw accounts. I'm going to click on I'm a teacher, and this is where I would type in my first name, my last name, my school email address, and set up a password to create my teacher account. Or you can also go down to Google and access your Google information, and it will automatically tie you right in. I'm not going to do it because I did it as a practice, and I thought I wiped all of my students' work out, so I was in panic mode. So now I'm going to go into my actual class, and I will explain this more in detail. What I want to start out with is a test class. This tab over here is where I can create new classes. So say, for example, if you wanted to create a class within a class, so you have a group of 5 students that you want to do a reading book club or a study, you can set that up here. So you can do as many classes as you want. I'm going to go into my test. And this page is what you will see when you first sign up for SeeSaw. So this is just a demonstration video of what it entails and teachers' testimonies. Over here is where you're going to see all of your students that you add, and it's going to tell you how many items they have in their portfolio. And activities, if I click on this tab, this is where you can assign activities and gather activities from other people. And over here is a great feature. It's an inbox, serves as an email. You can communicate with your students as a group or individually, and down here with the family. So you can invite families to join in, which is really nice. Over here are the skills where you can actually set up skills that are aligned with the core curriculum. And then up here in the wrench, this is where you are going to be able to set up your class. So you can add students individually, or you can go through your tech department and they can just populate all of your students and they will go right into SeeSaw. You can also invite the families once your students are set up. All you need is an email address or a phone number. So here's where you just assign your class name, and then the class level, the grade level. Notice that it goes from pre-K all the way through 12th and other. Okay, so I'm going to leave it set at 2. Here's where you can manage the teachers. So you just basically go in and you invite the teachers through their email. They will get a notification and they just accept. So then they can start posting assignments. The class theme is where you can choose a certain color. And this feature is really cool. You can customize it into a class icon. You can also upload images from your computer if you have a particular design that you prefer. So down here is the student mode. This is how they sign in. They can sign in through shared devices and use a generated QR code that's generated through SeeSaw. They can sign in with their student codes that you would print out for them. And they can also sign up for from their Google account. Oops. So you would manage students here. I have a student sample, and this is where you would just put in all their student information, and that's elective. The likes and comments, you can turn that on or off, and you can enable them to like other students' assignments, or you can disable that. And they can also comment on it. Here's where you can disable the ability for them to see each other's work. Right now on my class account, I choose not to have them seeing each other's work at this time. And all items can be required for approval. So that means they have to go through the teacher. So you can enable edit and edit the items. You can do that yourself on their work, or they can do that as well. And then here's where you can enable the family access. It does have the ability to have a class blog. I choose not to do that at this point because we unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to discuss that. And here's where you're just going to manage your folders. You can create different folders for different subjects. And here's where you can manage the skills that you assign And you can attach a rating scale. It goes from 3 stars to 6 stars. And you can have a nice color scheme to go with that. So with that, I'm going to go back into my actual class. And you can see here, these are these activities that I have recently assigned to my class. This first one actually shows up, and this is from our school counselor that has assigned an activity with a student for a Zoom meeting on one-on-one. And here's an assignment that I posted, and it's actually a Mystery Doug video. So it has a link to the video, and it has the directions here, which I will show you how to actually assign an activity. Down here is a great snapshot of what's going on. You see that I have 5 responses already. I have 0 waiting for approval. I have 1 currently in the draft stages and 10 students that have not responded. Down here tells me when I've assigned the activity for, and it tells me how many students in my class that I've assigned it, and that there's a template attached. If I click on these 3 dots, I can archive it, I can edit the activity if I want to change something, and I can also get the link if I want to send it to another teacher. So, unfortunately, I can't click on these 3 tabs because it has the students' names and the family names. So I'm just going to add an activity, and I'm going to assign the activity. So to create an activity, I'm going to click on this tab, but before I do that, I want to show you how my library is set up. So this is my personal library, and these are the activities that I have recently posted. Down here, you can see that I have collections. So I've kind of sorted out some of my activities. In this one, this is our camp that we're doing at the end of the school year, trying to keep their engagement. And so I have actually created all these activities, so all I have to do is assign them on the date that I would like them to do those. So I'll go back. Kind of slow today. So you can have as many collections as you want, and I just have different subjects for each one. Also, an additional feature is I can go to the school and district, and teachers in my district and at my school have not all, but some of them have posted if they felt that they wanted to share their activities. So you'll see those all here. You can also filter this by grades. And you can filter it by subjects. So as you can see, there's a lot. And you can see that these are the different entities that I can choose from. You can also filter it even more by doing more specific information. And then it even gets bigger. The whole SeeSaw community, if they decide, they can share what they've created, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to go back to my library, and I'm going to show you how to create an activity. So I just click on this button, and up here I'm going to type, we'll just keep it simple, and I'll start typing the instructions that I want the student to do. Okay. And then over here, if I want to, I can also add voice instructions. So I can read the instructions that I typed. Some students don't read the directions, so this is a good feature. Sometimes there's language learners that need a little extra help and they want to listen to the instructions, so that's a really good feature. Then down here, I can also add a photo. I can add, I can do additional microphone audio. I can do a text, or not a text, but a typed message. Over here, I can film myself or do a video, and that allows up to 5 minutes of filming. Down here, if I have a video that's longer than 5 minutes, I can drop in a URL link to that, and they will get connected. Over here, you can just do detailed notes. And over here is where I can add a file, a photo, or a video. So I am going to add a file from my downloads. And you will see it comes in here. I also have the opportunity to add 9 more photos if I want to. So if I'm satisfied with this picture, and you can put type things here, you can put notes here, you can edit anything on your computer. If I'm satisfied, I'm just going to click that check mark. This gives me an additional opportunity to type some directions. Oops. And then I can manipulate it. And I can bring it over here. On the side here, I can change the color, make it fun. I can also do a voice recording and talk about how they can earn this badge. And if I can add more pages as well. If I'm satisfied, I just check the check mark. And I would like to add a student template. So I'm going to click on this and add another file. Okay. So here is, and I can add 9 more photos to this. So if I'm satisfied, I'll just check on that. If I have more pages down here, I can change the order if I want. It gives me that ability. So this is a template the students will either choose to type on, or you can ask them to type it out and record themselves what they typed. So if I'm satisfied, I'm just going to check the check mark. And I'm going to click save. And this is saved. Now, if I want to assign it to a collection, I just click on the heart. And you'll see that all my collections I currently have are here. So I just check it and it automatically saves. So if I want to go back to my class, over here is an added feature for that you pay for the subscription. And this is you have the opportunity to schedule out in the future. It's a nice feature so you can kind of plan your whole week. And here are the archived. So these are items that I've archived. We did the Pledge of Allegiance every day, so I archived some of those so it didn't clutter up everything. Once you archive something, you can retrieve it. So it's not lost forever. It's just put in a separate file. Students, it does not erase it from the students' portfolios. So they will still maintain, if they have submitted the assignment, then it won't disrupt their portfolios. So with that, are there any questions before I stop sharing the screen that you'd like to see?
All right.
Okay.
Melissa, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm going to connect primary sources in literature, and I'm going to show you a lesson that I did with the 2nd graders at Washington School. This is a recording that I made with using Zoom, and I recorded the first 3 chapters of Earthquake in the Early Morning. This was the way I did it at first was I went on Zoom by myself and read the chapters. And then after it was converted, I put it into YouTube and then took the link and put it into SeeSaw so the kids had access to the chapter books as we went along. This was the first method that I used for sharing it on SeeSaw. I'm going to play just a very short piece so that you can hear how it worked.
Hello, this is Mrs. Ferris, and today I'm going to read a couple of episodes in Earthquake in the Early Morning. It's a magic treehouse book. It was written by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter, first we're going to do the prologue. Prologue means what came before. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister, Annie, climbed into the treehouse. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to the places in the books. All they had to do was point to a picture and wish to go there. Along the way, Jack and Annie discovered that the treehouse belongs to Morgan Le Fay.
Michelle, would you go to the next
Morgan
slide?
is a
Okay.
Okay, this is an actual picture that was taken in 1906 at the San Francisco earthquake. I gave this picture to the students in SeeSaw, and I asked them, put yourself in the picture, use your senses, and describe what you see, hear, smell, touch, and taste. And most of you will recognize that those are analysis questions. When the kids responded, I had several of them that embedded a picture of themselves in this historic picture. And I thought to myself, why'd they do that? And then I reread the prompt, and it says, put yourself in the picture. And they did. So those are, but this was a writing prompt that worked well. And I'm going to show you some of the results from the kids. So this youngster wrote, why is there a cloud that looks like a tornado? I bet the people are scared at what they are looking at. So he wrote his answers and thoughts on the picture and then shared it back with me in SeeSaw. Next one, please. On the left here are 2 recordings that students made. And part of in SeeSaw, it allows them to record their voices. And then I was able to take the recording and put it in the slides. However, I've had some technical issues, so you won't be able to hear the kids. But I wanted you to know that that part is available in SeeSaw, and it's a really cool feature, especially for some of our kids who struggle academically. Being able to verbally give you a short analysis is great. So this is another photo that was taken in 1906. And you'll see the very up-to-date fire engine. And I asked the kids to describe what they saw in the picture and asked them if the picture connected to the story we were reading, and answer why or why not. So this was an assessment tool for them for me to know how much they were understanding of what I was reading aloud. Next picture. This is another, you'll see this in many of the things that deal with the quake, all the leaning houses. So this is a thought and writing prompt where I asked the students to list 3 questions they had about this picture, and where would they be able to find that information. Primary sources are really powerful for helping go deeper in historical fiction. In this case, I was using a magic treehouse. Lauren Tarshish has written a number of I Survive books, which is another chapter book on the earthquake in San Francisco. There are also picture books that can be used in the start of or at the end of units. So making these connections between actual primary sources and pieces of literature really help kids make deeper connections. Does anybody have questions about using primary sources in literature or copyright? Most of the pictures in the Library of Congress are in public domain, but many of them will say that you have to do your own research. As a teacher in your classroom setting, you can use a lot of the pictures, but you cannot sell them or put them in publications without the permissions in place. So you want to make sure that it's a percentage of how much you're using. With the read aloud that I did, right now, many of the publishers have given permission to make recordings as long as they are removed at the end of this school year. So those recordings that I made, I will take down when school is out in order to keep and honor the copyrights of those publishers. Are there any other questions?
Ruth, I think there's a question about, do you use the primary sources before you read the book or after, or when do you actually introduce them to students?
In this case, I interwove them. Like I would read a chapter and then share a picture and a prompt. It depends on what your purpose is, what you're trying to accomplish. You can do it as kind of a teaser to set things up so the kids know about that there really was a San Francisco earthquake. You can use them, when I have used them for other classes at the beginning of a unit, a lot of times I've done a picture reveal where I put the picture behind, I put a table in front of it, I add color to it, so, and then animate it so that one chunk of the picture at a time is revealed and they can guess what it is about and use that as an intro to before I read a piece of literature.
It looks like that's pretty much it. We're just sharing some resources, Ruth.
Excellent. And I wanted to remind everybody to go to the TPS Teachers Network. Tom Bober is another librarian, and he writes for American Library Association, and he's done a lot of articles on connecting literature and primary sources. So I'm going to turn this over to Kathi.
All right.
Did I mess up?
No, you're all good. Kathi, it's on to you.
You're good. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen with you because what I'm going to be sharing with you has to be shown on an iPad. And so what I'm going to do is share my iPad with you. There it is. And what I am doing is I'm actually using an application that's called Reflector. And Reflector allows me to project my iPad or my phone or even a Chromebook onto my computer so that I can show the students or the teachers, whoever I'm working with, what I see on, or what I have on my iPad. The reason that I'm using my iPad is because the two pieces that I'm going to spend time with are only for iOS devices, and they are not available for a desktop machine at this time. Now, Reflector is actually an application that you do have to purchase. It's like $17.99 for the license, and then you've got it forever. The piece with this is they also have a reflector specifically for teachers. And that is nice because that allows your students to share their screens with their teachers, so that if they're going to be doing presentations, instead of having to, you know, swap out Chromebooks or computers or whatever they're doing, they can actually just share their presentation or share what they want to show with the teacher, and then the teacher can display it. So Reflector does have, it's the one I'm using right now is just a regular Reflector 3 application, but if you're interested, take a look for the Reflector Teacher, because that allows the students then to also share. So using Reflector, you guys now see my iPad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time talking about the LOC Collections app. And this one is brand new. It's came out just a little bit ago. In fact, Tom Barber at the TPS Teachers Network, he kind of turned us on to this when they came out with it. So we saw a lot of primary sources that Ruth used when she was tying primary sources to literature. And in order to get those resources and find those primary sources, we need to go to the Library of Congress in order to, you know, get what they have that we can share. And sometimes the collection, when you're working on the website itself, can be a little bit cumbersome. And so I really like this LOC Collections, which is the name of the app. And with that, when you tap on the LOC Collections, you will see that we have 4 different options. The first option is to search digital collections, and that is a super fast, easy search using keywords, and I'm thoroughly delighted with it. It's a great way to find some primary sources quickly and easily. You can also browse digital collections. A collection is exactly what it says. It's a collection of resources. And so this is something that you kind of need to explore a little bit. You also have favorites, and I'll show you how to aggregate your favorites. And then the last option is to find out a little bit of information about the Library of Congress itself. So the first piece that we're going to do is we're going to search our digital collections. So when I do the search for the digital collections, you will notice that I have going to go ahead and do my search. So that's for my keywords, but notice I can filter what I'm looking for. And these are all options that the Library of Congress has available for you. And as it stands right now, I'm going to just search everything. So when I come up and I do my keywords, it'll also show you that it saves what you've been searching on for the last few, your last few searches. Please remember that spelling does count, because the San Francisco earthquake does not work, but the San Francisco earthquake pulls up all of the different options. And you notice that my filter was just, I wanted everything that I could possibly have. And so the very first picture that it actually brought up is the one that Ruth used in her collection when she was working with, connecting it to her literature, to her story. And so as you take a look, you will see that there's this red star down here. That's because I started, because that was one that we pulled as something that we were going to use. So you will notice that we have all different types of items that are brought up, including films, photos, drawings. I did not filter for anything specifically, so I have everything possible for the San Francisco earthquake. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and choose one that I have not favorited before. And as I take a look, all of this information right here, this is all the citation and all of the information that you need about this particular picture that is from the Library of Congress. I am going to give you a heads up though. This URL, this link is not a citation. Instead, what it is this simply takes you to the Library of Congress and takes you to the actual picture within the Library of Congress where you can get the actual citation information that you need for this picture. You will notice that we have the star in the bottom right. If I click on the star, what it does is it then turns red. That means that I have added this picture to my favorites, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at these. The other piece that we're going to look at is this, and you guys are going to recognize that that is a share button. And when I go to share this, I have a lot of options. I can airdrop it to somebody. If you use Classroom, I can assign it directly to any classroom that I choose and create that assignment with it. Notice I have the option of also sharing it directly to a Zoom meeting. So if I'm having a Zoom meeting with students, we're going to be talking about primary sources or something that I want to connect to a book that we are reading out loud together, I can actually share this picture directly with Zoom. All of the students will see it at the same time, and then we can do our analysis in that way. We also have other options where I can print it, I can save it, and then I also have, I can even have more. So there's a lot of different options that I can do with these pictures. Notice I can also save it directly to my drive, which is nice to be able to have that kind of option with it. So these are all options for sharing a picture. So let's go back. And when I go back, I'm coming back to the original page, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the favorites because I just put this picture into my favorites. All of these are items that I have saved as I've gone and I've explored through the LOC Collections app. You'll notice the first picture is the one that I just saved. So when I go in and I want to sort these pictures, the options that I have are from my last to the first for looking at the date, or I can do an A to Z or Z to A. These are the way that I can sort. There's no way of putting them in a separate file, but you can do a little bit of sorting. You can also filter it. So let's say that I wanted to take a look at only what films I had pulled up. I can filter this so that I only pull up one particular piece, and notice then it goes through and it takes that off, and it has all of my films that I collected. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to apply all of them again because I do want to see all of these. Notice that I do have an option to edit this. When I edit, the option I have is to discard or keep. Those are the things that you can do for an edit. That is it. If I'm done with my search, say I find that I'm not going to use this particular picture anymore, what I can do then is I can simply delete it from my favorites. I can take it back down then to the ones that, the items that I specifically want to be able to use for my research, for my project, or any of those. So when you take a look, you have your favorites, you can share, you can sort. So we're going to go back, and you'll notice then that our next option that I kind of skip, excuse me, is to browse the digital collections. In the browse the digital collections, like I said, those are collections. And when you come with a collection and you look at a collection, what you'll see is that it gives you some information about that collection. Notice that there's 62,000 images, there's 20,000 documents. It tells us put everything together in one place for you. And then of course, then we can browse actually all of those options. So there's 20,195 pieces within this particular collection. And so when you're looking at collections, my recommendation is take some time and take a look around, because you may not recognize who some of these are, like the Alan Lomax collection. But when you click on it, then it actually tells you what kind of pieces are in that collection. This is a great way to find something that maybe you hadn't even thought about before as you're doing some research for some of your different projects that are going on. The last option is general information about the Library of Congress. Notice that it does have the links, and so that you can go ahead and it'll take you directly to the Library of Congress at that time. So that is the LOC Collections. It's the brand new app that they've just come out with. It is currently only available for iOS devices, which is why I am on my iPad. But I like it because that basic search of the digital collections, that first search, makes it super fast and easy to be able to accumulate a large number of pieces that you want for your project. And I think that it's a much easier way of searching for it. So, if you want your kids to take a look at it, I'm pretty sure that they're going to love it too, because they're going to find it an easy way to resource it. Just remember that you got to figure out how to get the correct citation for it. Now, the other piece that the Library of Congress offers are called student discovery sets. Student discovery sets are available through Apple Books. So in this case, it is through Books. It is a collection of 19 primary source sets that they have put together. And one of the pieces that I particularly like about using student discovery sets is that when I can display my iPad like this, I can enlarge the image. But the other piece with that is that it also allows me to do an analysis right there. It allows me to annotate all of those different pieces. So in this case, let's go ahead and we're going to try women's suffrage. And what it does first is it tells you a little bit about how to get started in using these primary sources. And this set, it has 22 different pieces of information that you can use. And with this, notice that right down here, it says full teaching resources for this book. The Library of Congress also provides not only the information, but also lesson plans on how to be able to use some of these different primary sources. So it explains to you how to actually come in and use this particular app. So here we have 18 different resources that the Library of Congress has put together for us. It is not all just photographs. They include maps, they include audio, and a lot of times they will also include video. They'll have documents, they will have cartoons. So when we can either click through this one by one, or we can choose the actual primary source that we want to take a look at. In this case, we're going to take a look at primary source number 11. This is a cartoon, and down at the bottom you will see where we have analyze. When I click analyze, it brings up a box for us where we can type in it. And so I could type the actual, as I ask questions, we could type this in. I like the fact that it also says show prompts, because when we do an analysis, sometimes we may not always be thinking about what kind of questions are we going to ask about this? How are we going to actually do an analysis of this particular piece? And so by having the prompts, it tells us, observe, describe what you see. For the reflect, it's what's happening. What kind of a question do you have? How might you investigate more? So in this, you are simply going to type in your answer. or your kids will. And with that, then you can go on. Now I can clear the text, or I can simply close it, and then I'll have that. The other piece is the draw piece. This is the annotation piece. So with this, I can actually draw attention to some piece that I want the students to pay particular attention to. In this case, I want them to notice, what is the heading of this? Okay, it is election day. What kind of an expression does he have on his face? Some of those different things. But by being able to annotate, that allows me to focus the students' attention to a particular piece that I want them to focus on. So on this, I am going to clear that drawing so that the next time I come to it, I can go ahead and continue with what I'm working on. At the very end of this, let me move, there we go. I wanted to show that this also has a little synopsis about every single piece that is in this, every primary source that is there. It tells us what it is. It gives us all of the citation information that we need for all of those resources that we have. So this has not only lesson plans, but it has the citation pieces. It allows you to manipulate the primary sources a little bit in that you can actually, let me go back. Oh, there we are. And like I said, there's 19. They add new ones all the time. And so this is another option that you have for a great app and getting students involved with primary sources that's available for free from the Library of Congress. So do we have any questions right now?
Kathi, I think everybody's wowed by your presentation and the swapping questions there. Lisa has one. Can students share their annotations with the teacher? Do you know?
If you are using the Reflector for Teacher and the kids are on an iPad or on their phone, they could share it with you. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the times when I have used this particular, when I use the student discovery sets, usually I do it as a whole class.
Okay.
But you could certainly have them do it. I mean, yeah, save the screenshot, make them share it with you.
I think they were mostly thrilled just to be swapping ideas, looking at what you were doing. There was a question about whether this tool was integrated with the Smithsonian or if it would talk to the Smithsonian Learning Lab. And I don't know.
I don't know that either. I know that I have not dug deep enough to see if it does coordinate with the Smithsonian Learning Lab at all.
Well, I think it's Ask a Librarian time. I think we can make that happen at the library. There's another one too. Cindy asked if you could go back and show how to access the student discovery sets once again from it. Would you mind doing that just as a quick look before we turn it back over to Ruth?
Sure. You will notice that this is an app and it's called iBooks or Apple Books. And so in order for me to actually come in to iBooks, you have to have this particular program on your iPad, and notice then I can go to the store. At the bookstore, this is where I'm going to take a look for search. I take a look for, I type in library, look at this, Library of Congress, and it came right up so that I can actually choose which ones, if I don't have any of them, I can choose it from here. The other place though, and I know that this is in a link on the two-pager, and it's also a link on the presentation, but you can actually get these also from the Library of Congress. and it takes you to the Apple book, the iBooks, and you have to go through iBooks though, because that's where it's going to play. So
Perfect.
did that answer that?
It did, and I think Kyle put that link in there too, and we are, as you mentioned, you guys are going to give a 2-pager at the end, so
Yes.
there
Yes.
you go.
Okay. So do we have other questions?
I think that's good right now. Oh,
Awesome. What?
is iBooks a free app? Yes, Ruth, it is.
Yes.
Not everything on it is free, but but it's a free app.
It is a free app. Here's a plot. I can't help it because they're actually right now offering a lot of free books, not only for adults, but also for young kids. So another place to find some books. So, all right. So I'm at this time then, if there are no other questions, I'm going to stop my share and we'll turn it over to Ruth then.
All right, so we're going to go back to Ruth. And
What an awesome presentation, Kathi. So much information.
Thank you.
So this is our bonus time. And the first slide is called Citizen U. And it is, I got this from Barrett Nexus. They're the Chicago partner that we have. And this is a choice board. And I used a number of these questions, adapting them a little bit for my younger students. But they have also created some other choice boards that you might want to look at and examine. They're really very effective. So this is the
go ahead.
2-pager that Kathi referred to. It's in 3 columns. I lost it. First column has the program. Middle one is notes that you can write down about that program. And then on the 3rd column, there's some information that's already been put there to give you kind of a touch of a cheat sheet. So like there's SeeSaw, there's the apps that Kathi was talking about, there's Zoom. So there's a number of collections that will help you remember what the webinar was about. You could laminate it and use it just as a cheat sheet in your lesson planner. Next slide, please. Now, this one is a hack that I was thrilled with when Michelle shared it with me. We talked about the issues of the copyright. Well, this allows me to record a read aloud and put it into a Google Doc. That means it's a closed setting and only the people with that link can actually access it. So this is what it looks like on a Google Doc. So this particular one shows the video for chapter 10, which is the final chapter, and the picture that I chose. So now I can take that document and upload it into SeeSaw for my students to actually do the assignment. This particular picture was searching for different things like how many hats can you count, how many horses, how many soldiers can you find. This is for, like, that strategy is for very young kids. Would you take me back to the previous slide? This particular, let's see, did I do this one?
Go here, I think.
Okay. Yep, that's the one I wanted. Okay, this gives a link to an article that showed different ways of putting a video into Google Docs. This is the one that I used with some of the steps. And you can click on that image and it takes you to the recording. Next slide. And I will turn this over to Keith to talk about what happens next. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks y'all for attending. Unless there's any other questions, we got another 5 minutes or so. So If you have any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask the question yourself if you would like as well. So a huge thank you to Melissa, Ruth, and Kathi for providing these awesome thinking strategies and text tools to go with it. I posted the link to the presentation in the chat box, so you can view that there. Thanks also to Keith, Crystal, Michelle, Laura, everybody else in the chat for providing all the amazing resources. And also thank you to the Library of Congress for making these webinars possible through the TPS teachers or the TPS program. As a reminder, for those of you who would like the professional development certificate, you can fill out the form at bit.ly/PS teaching online. And that will be put in the chat here. One sec.
And Kyle, while you're doing that, I want to share that our great presenters put together a wonderful resource list. So Melissa, Ruth, and Kathi pulled all of the resources that they've been referencing and have given you hot links in this particular resource document. I pulled it up for you. And these resources are here and linkable to all the tutorials, all the picture book with primary source resources, including those. We added the ones out of the chat box tonight. So those have been added in here for reference, including those in the teacher network, so you can go right back to those, and you can reference this particular site and the information that you need right in the presentation. And I'm going to go back. That you can find that resource here, whoops, right here at SeeSaw Lit LOC. And this slide and everything, we will put the link to the presentation in the chat box. So there you go.
Yeah, and there was a question too about the name of the webinars being on there. Give me 30 seconds and I'll put them all on there right now. So if you don't see the name of this webinar on the form, I apologize.
It's all good. So really you just need that last webinar piece, you know, for your site. You just need to go to bit.ly, SeeSaw Lit LOC, and that will give you the whole folder, all the resources, everything that these great gals have prepared for you tonight is going to be right in there as a resource. And we will paste that in the chat box too.